pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, call the roll, please.
Chairman Judd.
Here.
Commissioner Scapini.
Here.
Machado.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Here. Martinez.
Here.
I am here.
Okay. At this point in time, I'd like to read a statement here related to the attendance. For those that may not have heard it, it's with heavy heart that I report that our Commissioner, Douglas Jackson, met an untimely death on August 6th at the Fraser Lake Airport. Doug was killed when an aircraft collided with the grass mower that Doug was operating. Doug was one of our 2 county commissioners, that is, a commissioner resident within San Benito County, but not in the city of Hollister. For many years, Doug contributed his business acumen and government relations experience and expertise to our commission deliberations and decision-making. He could always be counted upon to look at a situation in a fresh way and to examine and comment on budget matters with an expert eye. Doug's advocacy of fiscal responsibility contributed to the establishment of reserve funds to help secure the future of our airport. Our heart goes out to Doug's family at this trying time. He will be sorely missed by this commission, the Hollister Airport aviation community, and San Benito County. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything at this time. Mike, did you have something?
Well, I mean, it's a terrible loss to everybody, his family, the commission, and the Hollister Airport and Fraser Lake Airport. Doug helped me tremendously when I first came here. And I enjoyed working with him every second I had. I've been very lucky in my life that I've had the right mentors at the right time, and I consider Doug one of those priceless mentors that I had in my life. And he's terribly, terribly missed. He was a great guy.
Okay, well, I have to move on. Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the Airport Advisory Commission of the City of Hollister regular meeting of August 26, 2015 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on August 21st at 10 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. Our consent agenda is simply to approve the minutes of the Airport Advisory Commission meeting of May 27th, 2015. If anybody has comments on those, otherwise I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes.
Then move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. At this point, public input is a time for if anyone would like to speak on any topic that is not on the agenda. We do have one speaker card.
Ruth Erickson.
One of his phones.
No.
Between.
That's the brown one.
Now it's green.
Or one of the other ones.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah. Ruth Erickson, Hollister. I just wanted to make 2 points. Doug will be missed from the Hollister Airmen's Association also. He was a member for many years. I had a lot of posters sent to me by the Watsonville Airport. And I was wondering if, I'm sure that some of you will be interested in driving or flying over. September 5th, September 4th, they've got fly-in arrivals, Friday and Saturday, but the main event is on Saturday. So they had these posters and these cards. If anybody would like to take posters and post them where you work, where you play, where you fly, wherever. I've got a whole lot of them here and these cards, and perhaps the airport could put up a couple. You know, our neighbors, we should always support each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. If there are no other speakers, I'll move on to item 7, reports. Super Bowl update.
There's a meeting scheduled on October 8th to discuss Super Bowl with all Bay Area airports in Napa at 9 a.m.
Napa? What?
9. I don't fly. And the one guy I know who does fly doesn't get up that early. But anyway.
Beg your pardon.
Needless to say, we will be there come crook or whatever. We may have to spend the night or something. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll be there. I get up at 3. We can start driving. So anyway, that meeting's scheduled. Steve attended a meeting at a conference a month ago. They gave some preliminary information to him. It's actually all being run by the 49ers, for lack of a better organization. They have a little Super Bowl subsidiary group. So they are supposed to be contacting us, I believe, in the next couple of weeks to talk to us. It all looks good for us to make the cut to be an eligible airport. In addition to that, I have contracted with KON to produce a 30-second commercial, for lack of a better term, that we'll be using at NBAA 7, the National Business Aviation Conference, to advertise to the people that attend the Super Bowl with their private jets, to let them know that Hollister's available, what the amenities are, etc. In fact, they should be contacting Dave Leonardo if they haven't already, because he's going to star in the show as the FBO as part of it. Yeah, you are. So anyway, that's all rolling. In fact, I'm meeting with Ken Lindsay and Dave Leonardo specifically on the Super Bowl tomorrow afternoon to discuss some other advertising opportunities that we have that I don't want to go into details.
Okay, any comments at all? Okay, item 7B, CPI, Consumer Price Index.
So I believe letters have gone out to tenants advising them of the CPI increase. So I believe that goes into effect in September, if I'm correct. So just to let you know, that's going. I honestly couldn't tell you right now what the percentage is, because I did that a couple months ago and I've forgotten at this point. I think it was a couple percent.
Something like that.
Something like that. So nothing drastic, but all that's happening, just as a heads up.
Any comments from the commission?
Yeah, I thought it was already in effect this month.
Oh, was it this month?
Am I correct on that?
So, well, it depends on the leases. We have some leases that go into effect in April. The majority of the leases go into effect in September, and then we have some other leases that are random.
Well,
And we're
went up anyhow.
try-
Month before.
trying to uniform that. I'll look into that.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay. Item 7C is CAL FIRE.
A couple things happened over there. They had a taxiway failure in front of their ramp area. We fixed it with our own staff. We removed a whole bunch of what I would classify, in my professional opinion, as muck. I mean, it just was gooey, mud, clay stuff. So we actually put in 2 feet of base there because of the heavy airplanes going across it, and then put 4 inches of asphalt back. So that repair was probably about twice the size of the table in front of you. That all got taken care of, and CAL FIRE was not affected, so they were able to still operate. And then the other thing with CAL FIRE is a few months ago they brought in a 4-engine jet which actually is the equivalent to 3 tankers worth of material. They asked me for permission to operate from there, and I gave it to them, much to the jet fuel vendors' happiness. So anyway, that's all happened. So if you see a 4-engine CAL FIRE jet coming in, that's what's going on. It means there's a big fire somewhere.
Have they operated at all with it yet?
Yeah.
Have they?
Yes. We didn't, and to be honest with you, it's quieter than the S2s. We didn't even know it had come in until we saw it out there.
It will be for refuel and refill?
Refuel, reload, and go. It's based out of Paso Robles, I guess.
That's what it was.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Did they fully loaded take off? Okay.
I believe it's a BAE 17. 146. BAE 146. Well, that's not going to work because that's Dell. So anyway, look it up on your own. BAE 146.
Where was that failure at, on the taxiway, you said?
Right in front of their reload ramp.
Oh, okay.
Right on the edge.
It's almost ramp area then.
No, it was, the ramp's concrete, and in fact, that's why it happened. The ramp's concrete, we have asphalt going up to concrete.
Yeah.
There's a crack there, and the asphalt's crowned, so all the water goes there, gets in there, and it just contributes to the mess. I'm looking at a permanent fix of putting a drain that runs the whole length of that thing across all the hangars, and then ties into the drain pipe that we just put in a couple grants ago.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, item 7D, public RR.
Public restroom,
Oh,
not a railroad. So we've been receiving some complaints about the public restroom over near our old office. So due to heavy use and whatever, we've gone ahead and contracted an extra service in there for the week at an additional $100 a month cost. So that is occurring.
Do we know what the heavy use is from, or as far as where all the extra people are coming?
I'm guessing it might be people walking by to get in an airplane.
Okay.
There aren't that many people walking by to get in there.
En masse. But anyway,
Okay.
you mean with things hanging on their back, is that what you're trying to say?
yeah, yeah.
So what's this $100 a month buying us?
An extra cleaning of the restroom every
Oh.
week.
Okay.
So instead of 1 time a week, it's now 2 times a week.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, we'll go on to item 7E, new position.
So I was able to get a additional maintenance full-time position out at the airport. That was hard. So soon as the airport operations specialist gets the job description corrected and massaged the way we need it, we'll get those changes approved, and then we'll get that position open and hired.
How many that makes out there now? 2?
2,
Steve and
whatever this new position is.
We have a part-time guy now, right?
Yes. He's working full-time, part-time, full-time in the interim since the money's budgeted.
Other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to item 7F, ACIP 2017-19 Airport Capital Improvement Program.
So The FAA has moved this up a month. That's why you're seeing it a month or early. Normally, we do this in September. But I got an email last week saying that they wanted to move everything up a month. So what we're doing is just looking at the next few years of programmed projects. I did not put any changes in here. There is a change in here that occurred very recently. That's why it hasn't been changed. As you're aware, last year, 2014, we did the reconstruction phase 1 project. We received a $3.3 million grant for that project. This year, we're doing the phase 2 of the project. We asked for $6 million. They've given us $5.4 million. It's actually gone down a little more since then. It's $5.3 million. We will be able to complete that project this year. The project they did not fund was the master plan update, so that will bump as a result of that. So that's the change I haven't put in here. We thought we had an opportunity to take care of that, including the airport layout plan update that we had planned for 2016. Santa Clara County called us and they were going to lose their entitlement funds because you can only bank them for 3 years. So they had $300,000 available and they wished to give it to us.
Nice.
I scrambled to get our stuff done, but the FSDO wished to give it to somebody else, so it went to somebody else because they control everything. So as a result, the stuff's going to bump at least a year. Next year, which is the important one, we are programmed to do the CAL FIRE taxiway. That would be the taxiway that runs from the threshold of 3-1 perpendicular out of the safety zone and then parallel to 3-1 over to Charlie. It eliminates extremely dangerous runway crossings at the intersection of the runway because the people on the other side can now get to 3-1 threshold without having to cross the runway. In addition to that, it also includes a run-up area for 3-1 at that end of the world. So that is what we are pushing hard to get funded for next year. The next one that was on here is the terminal restaurant designing and engineering. That is something the FAA will not fund and is something Caltrans will not fund. So we would be funding that ourselves. It is possible that may still happen. I don't know yet.
Beg your pardon, how would it happen?
Well, if we use airport funds to do it.
Well,
I don't feel comfortable committing that amount of fund right now, so we'll see what happens in January. I may bring a supplemental to you guys to say, okay, we have 100,000 in reserves, let's go ahead and get started.
cross that bridge when we get there.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And then in 2017, we're looking at a runway 24 run-up area design and construction. We're looking at adding taxiway lighting to Alpha and Charlie. We're looking at actually building the restaurant, and we're looking at building doing the design and engineering for the security service road that runs around the perimeter of the airport. And then 2018, we're looking at beginning construction of that road and putting a automatic vehicle gate at the north end of the ramp to split the load with the one by my office that gets all the traffic. So we're looking at putting one down by Min's to maybe lighten the load on that so it doesn't wear out as quickly as it does. The other thing we're looking at is relocating the REIL lights at the 3-1 end of the world, so we don't have to build a new taxiway. We can just move everything down to where Bravo is. Because right now the plan says we're going to build a new taxiway 100 feet away and then tear out the old one. And I think it'd be cheaper just to move the lights and repaint things. So we're working on that with the FAA at this time.
With regard to that, I did read the, like, it was ACIP or whatever, or not AC, I guess it was. And I'm not done reading it. It's not very long, but it's
Very complicated, isn't
a
it?
little tricky. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd like to satisfy myself that it's a legitimate approach. And I'm not there yet. Not that you have to wait for me, but,
We got 3 years.
yeah. Yeah, okay. All right.
So if I could get a motion from you folks approving this, there's other stuff in here, but it's so far out in the future, it's not even really worth discussing at this time. Truly, we're just looking at the next few years with the FAA. So if you can give me a motion, I'll go ahead and get it to the council on the next agenda so they can approve it, so I can go to the FAA.
Can I back up? I have refreshed my memory on that $5 million grant. I can't read. Is that runway reconstruction?
Yes,
That's because of the,
that's to finish doing 3-1?
that's because of the problem they had with it the first time around?
No,
This is the second phase.
no, it's starting at the point they stopped. Hank,
And going south?
I don't know why I'm getting feedback, but starting at the point they stopped and going all the way down to Cal Fire.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were gonna do that part of it. Okay.
Phase 2.
Thank you.
Which is total reconstruction from the point they stopped to the intersection. And then the remainder of the runway is kind of a modified overlay, but they have to move the crown back into the middle because currently the crown is not in the middle down there. It's off by like 10 feet. And they also discovered that somebody moved the threshold by about 30 feet, so they're gonna fix that too.
That's paint, isn't it? Yeah.
It does, you mentioned Cal Fire taxiway.
Uh-huh.
Is that anything related to the through the fence operation taxiway?
It cannot be because the FAA will not pay for that, but it does get it a little closer.
So the public has the right to use that taxiway?
That's correct.
How close is that to the fence?
It's not.
It's not.
300 yards?
Oh. I'm skipping, Joe. Short flight. Okay.
What this does is allow us to get the people from the other side of the airport to the threshold of 3-1
Safely.
without making them cross the runway at the
But this
intersection.
is from their new facility?
Yes, the new facility.
And what's Cal Fire gonna do about the across the airport? Are they gonna build over there?
I'm told they're working on it.
Yeah, I've heard that also.
Yeah, 10 years?
Money.
They have a 50-year lease,
But they don't pay for it till they're
but they
there.
don't pay for it till they're there.
We still have the right to increase the lease where they are?
No, I don't think any of that goes into effect. Oh, I'm sorry. Where they're at now?
Right.
Yes. They are, there's a very substantial increase coming in the future.
Could be an encouragement.
I'll make a motion to pass budget the way it is.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been
Good.
moved and seconded, I think, to recommend to the city council to accept these changes. Any more comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Moving on to item 8, which is old business. Item 8A is business plan. That's
Nothing to report there.
Okay. Item B is the air show.
So, all the bills are in. Bottom line that everybody wants to know was we lost $9,479.39. We had about 2,200 people. Once again, just a reminder, we don't charge for anybody under the age of 6, so we really don't get a count of them. It's a it just, we don't know how many people
Yeah.
are there under the age of 6. So that's what the correction factor of 10% represents, is that under 6 demographic. Probably is really conservative, but it is what it is. We had a great air show, I thought. We overcame some pretty significant challenges right there at the end. We had an F-18, which I think
Yeah.
really
That helped quite a bit.
surprised a lot of people. And they've already asked to come back next year, I believe, and bring friends. And we already did the paperwork for that. I can continue to tweak things a little bit. I did cut the show severely this year, and it was noticed. There were comments that we received that the show was too short. Where'd this act go? What's going on? Probably the most frequent comment we got was not enough food vendors. Once again, I have absolutely no control over that at all unless we want to pay the food vendors to come and then we take what they make. And I don't think that's a good choice. So it's also, I have also found out that there may be some issues with another agency that make it prohibitive for food vendors to operate in this area. And they're really beyond the city's control.
You're saying in the future there's some additional problem to be faced? Did I misunderstand what you said?
There are additional agencies that regulate the sale of food,
Yeah?
and the procedures that are in place are not business friendly.
Have we been complying?
Oh, it's not us. And it doesn't affect us. It affects the people that would come to our event and
Okay.
sell
We
food.
presume that those people are in compliance.
Oh, yeah. We do not enforce those
I see. Okay.
regulations.
Gotcha.
So that also creates an issue on attracting people. So with that said, I really can't do much there. I can cut the axe down some more to cut costs. I'm not sure that would be a good idea at this point because it's a pretty short show at this stage. We did have probably about $6,000 of expenses right at the end that were just bad luck. One of our acts could not perform. One of our long-term acts couldn't perform. We had to hire a replacement act at very short notice, like 2 days, and it was at significant cost. So, and there were a couple other things that happened right then that I don't really remember right now. So anyway, that's the good news, bad news, whatever news you want to present. I'm going to present that to the city council on the 8th of September, which is Tuesday night, not Monday night because of Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
Please note that I spent $47,000 this year. We were budgeted to spend $60,000. On my own initiative, I went down there and cut that budget by $10,000, which drove finance nuts because they didn't know what to do. No one ever did that before. And I still was well under the $50,000 budget that I set for this event. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I think Dean's loaded for beer for me.
No, I have some, you say you had some complaints that people said the air show was too short?
That is correct.
Aerial.
There were probably 4 or 5 of them. The most frequent one was not enough shade.
Yeah.
And the second most frequent one, and I even think volunteers put in not enough shade. The second most frequent one was the food vendor complaint.
Okay.
So I do have some bullet points here that I'd like to go over, and I'd like to get a discussion going here, because I have some what I'd like to see us recommend to the City Council, since we are an advisory commission. I'd like to start with making the point that I think Mike has done a superb job of organizing and staging 6 air shows. The support by airport staff and help by many volunteers from the airport community has been good as also been as good as it gets. So I think it's been we've done everything we can. I think everybody's input their ideas and so forth and so on. I'd like to point out the air show, in my opinion, primarily benefits the surrounding community and is educational for the non-aviation public. I mean that in contrast to, I don't know that it does a lot for us airport people, other than we enjoy it, but it doesn't, it's not really not putting it on for us. We're trying to put it on for the people outside the airport. Next item is that the losses for the last 5 air shows, which are the last 5 where we had to pay the performers. I'm discounting the first one, which showed profit, but we didn't pay the performers, basically. We gave them fuel, but they were helping us out. So for the last 5 air shows, the losses totaled $56,941. And this is money that's now not available for matching future federal grants of nearly $570,000, meaning if we could get a grant for $570,000, we have to match 10%. Well, this is money we don't have anymore because it's been drained out of our budget over the last 5 years. At least that's the way I look at it. And it's also, by the way, possibly worth as much as $1.1 million, because if the state ever gets its act together and starts kicking in their 5%, then this loss that we're looking at that represents only 5% of matching funds for a grant could be up to over $1 million that we won't have the matching funds for in the future. So in other words, that's what running losses does, in my view. Takes money away from our ability to come up with these grants in the future, or matching funds. I'd like to say, too, that despite 2 different weekend dates, varying advertising approaches, incorporating many different ideas from the community, the air show has consistently lost money, including this last June, as Mike mentioned, $9,479, and the weather was picture perfect. Couldn't have been better. Just could not have been better weather. And we still lost $9,000. So to me, there's a trend. We're not making it. So my conclusion is that without additional sponsorship, we can expect to lose money if we do this again. I think we've done everything we can. Ruth has certainly run out and gotten sponsors and so forth and so on. We're giving it all, and we're still losing $9,000 to $10,000, $11,000 a year. So, I have to face those facts anyway. So my recommendation, and what I'd like us to discuss, making a recommendation is to advise the City Council that the air show should be discontinued due to insufficient sponsorship, and a fly-in should be considered as a replacement. Whereas a fly-in, I think, still exposes us to the outside community, but I think it can, just as Watsonville, I guess, this year is doing a fly-in. I just can't see us losing $10,000, $11,000 every year. My second recommendation would be to the city, if it still feels the air show is of value to the community, then I think the city should become a sponsor in the amount of $11,000 to keep the show from being a financial burden on funding of future airport grants. So this is my personal position as a tenant. It's also a position I think that as a commissioner I believe in, and I mean it. I think we should advise the city to not dictate us to run an air show that we're going to run at a loss every year, without going into various other things that might mean. But it's just not the way to go. And I'd like to hear from the rest of the commission as to see if they have comments that they think either can shoot holes in what I'm saying or have different recommendations, and ultimately, if we can, I'd like to get a motion to make those recommendations or something like them, because I just don't want to keep losing money. This is not healthy.
Two questions.
Gordon?
Mike, you mentioned that we lost 9, but there was a added cost because a performer didn't show. What was the difference between the 9 and if it went smooth?
We would only lost 3.
3,000? Okay. The second question is, what's the difference between an air show? I know there is a big difference. What's the difference between an air show and a fly-in?
Primarily,
Public-wise, basically.
well, I mean, as far as this is concerned and as far as we're
I'm
concerned,
assuming that a fly-in, there's just no aerobatics.
there is no aerobatics, so we
The
wouldn't have
public
to.
is still there to view the activity.
The airport's still open for people to view aircraft. So a couple things, we wouldn't be buying fuel, because a considerable amount of the expenses for the air show is fuel and smoke oil. That stuff's more expensive than fuel, believe it or not. There's a considerable amount of it that does go to the performers. So some expenses would still be incurred by the air show. About $2,000 in porta potties would need to be brought in. We have the fencing equipment and all that stuff now. We own all that, so that doesn't cost. The AV equipment we own, so that doesn't cost.
But we wouldn't need use of that without the aerobatic sacks.
Well, you still probably want to play music or something. Or, you know, when San Martin does their flying, there's a gentleman there who knows everything there is to know about every aircraft that there, and so he tells people about things.
Okay.
I have a small reservation about doing a flying. And I've seen it at San Martin, and it does happen a lot, and it's bad, is people decide to put on their own air show when they're flying in. And it can get very dangerous very quickly. That would be my reservation about having a fly-in. We would have to, I'm guessing we would have to have twice as many volunteers on the ramp to enforce aircraft shutting down and getting them pushed in rather than them taxiing in with people out there on the ramp. But we have no control over that pilot when they're in the air coming in. We had a near miss at one of our air shows when we opened it up to end. We had somebody take off on the proper runway, 2-4. Everybody was lined up to take off. Well, they decided to come around and do their own air show on 3-1, and it was close. Really close. And I saw it happen. I don't know who else saw that one, but that was not a good deal. And we would be inviting that risk. I think it's a greater risk than we would with the air show. As far as costs and trouble for doing the paperwork and all that, the paperwork's not that big a deal to fill out and send in to get the waiver. And then there's a meeting that I have to go to up in San Jose, so it costs an hour or two for me to go up to San Jose and go to a meeting. We do not pay for the FAA to come down and work the air show. That is still an expense covered by the FAA. Some events, they are charging for air traffic control support, Oshkosh. I'm guessing Salinas gets a bill for air traffic control support. But as far as our show goes, it's small enough that at this time they don't charge for that.
Well, they don't provide it either.
And they don't provide it. Or they don't require it. So, I mean, there are some advantages to a fly-in. We could keep the cost lower. We would have to bring in porta potties. I mean, there's no way around that. We have a lot of the other stuff that we would need. But my worry is the fact that we're inviting that little added risk and there's no FAA people there to make sure that things go smoothly.
As far as, my input on this, I don't believe we should stop the air show. Yes, I believe, it's not going to be a money-making event. It will cost us something each year. Hopefully with added aircraft that come in along with FA-18, might bring a big crowd. But the air show, in my view, is advertisement for the Hollister Air Show, or for the Hollister Airport. For other people to come in, for the city to recognize what it's there for, what it can do for the city. Can we put a price on that? Yes, the money does take away from our matching funds, but it's in benefit to the airport. There's a lot of people that don't like the airports because of the noise, because of everything else.
It's community outreach, I understand that.
Correct. This is a way to show the community what the airport can do for the city. To bring in public, show them we're not a bad thing. So in my opinion, the money that we has lost is advertisement. My opinion. So personally, I don't think we should stop.
I want to give you my 2 cents worth.
Sure, brother.
I expect the mayor to be here tonight. I talked to him today. He was going to come tonight. A static display it draws a lot of people also. Most of it, quite a bit of it's Friday night, the static display. I think if you do more advertisement, and it's going to cost money to do that, I think we need more advertisement, and I think we need to change the date. That Father's Day is not the day to have it. More people complain about that on Father's Day because they either leave town, they go to the beach, and they go to their cabin and whatever. But I think if you change the date and do some real good advertisement in the surrounding areas, I think we can draw a crowd. I agree with Steve on that. We need an air show. I think that's really good advertising for the airport and for the city of Hollister. And also brings the business to Hollister, motels, gas, and whatever. People come and they stay overnight. And like you said, Dean said, the weather was great this year. We had good weather. So I just think we need more advertisement. I think this year was less than ever, than the previous 2 years.
Actually, it was double.
All right?
It was double.
I sure didn't see it on
We
TV that much.
ran 3,000 television commercials, 2,000 in English and 1,000 in Spanish.
Yeah. I don't really agree with Rob as far as changing the date. I know with myself and my busy schedule, it's hard. I have to plan things almost a year ahead to be able to do it. And I know there's a lot of other people. By changing the dates so often, I mean, we've already done it once. And, in my opinion there again, a lot of people have planned on, the first date that we had done it, made plans to come down, and all of a sudden we changed it. They already had other plans. I think if we start changing the dates too often again, we're going to lose more people.
A lot of people want to tie it in with a motorcycle rally.
That would be one thing to benefit the rally. I mean, the same date might also benefit us, but just depends on how many people each could draw. So, I mean, personally, I'm kind of opposed to changing the date again. And we may run at a loss for a while, just like any new business or new event. But eventually, as long as we continue, people will get used to, hey, Father's Day air show in Hollister. And I think Watsonville might have found that. We'd have to check with them when they first changed their dates. A lot of other people already had plans for that date, so they didn't come and show up and participate. There again, my opinion, but, you know, like to hear from somebody else.
As a new guy on the commission, a couple of things. I've noticed a trend. Last 5 years, you've averaged a little over $11,000 in losses. But I continue to look at the economic impact, which I think is there's a lot to be said there. You also have tradition. This airport was built way back before World War II, right?
Right.
And people will recognize it if you keep it pretty stable. In other words, you're going to have a particular date at a particular time. You're also looking at competing, interests, events. People are going to have that regardless. I think it's important to try to keep it as stable as possible so people recognize that's the day I'm going to put on my calendar. And you have, the Super Bowl event. You target that, you emphasize the air show. I think you'll have a lot more success. Again, the new guy, just looking at it from just the numbers, I would keep it. I wouldn't change it. Certainly, you could tweak it here and there. The vendor fees, are of concern, but you know what? If there's other agencies that need to be involved in this, so be it. They're obviously, there for a reason. But that's my 2 cents.
I agree with that.
I guess the only other one we haven't heard from is Fred.
I have a comment. Number one,
We'll get to you.
we should approach the city council on this air show that they should get more involved and put up a show, basically, and let us run the air show the way we want to run it. And the second item would be if they could do something about the high cost of the vendors from the county, if they could do some work on that. And as far as changing the date, I don't think we should do that. People they kind of get used to a certain trend, so I think the date, I don't agree with changing the date. And I say just do another air show, and if what bothers me is that we ought to maybe take a harder look at the year we lost 25,000.
That was the year it rained.
It rained? Oh, that's when we had it on the Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
But other than that, I think the air show does benefit the airport itself.
Yeah.
But we just can't continually keep losing money on it either. We have this thing that has to be done at the airport, so that's
I think with the added static displays that are hopefully in the process of getting worked out and coming in, that will be a big draw in itself. Hopefully that all comes to fruition, and, that will bring in added people just to see those, not necessarily the aerial aspect of it. But myself, we're all airport bums. So to go out there and watch airplanes fly around and all that, that's nothing for us. We're bored with that. But for the general public, it's not. For them to come out and just look at vintage aircraft or my airplane or somebody else's sitting on display, I can't see the general public doing that. People that are interested in airplanes, yes, but not somebody that doesn't care about an airplane. They want to come out and actually see them fly. So, a fly-in, I think, would be fun to see a lot of people, but I think it'd also be detrimental.
Detrimental.
We wouldn't get the people that would be there. I think we still need the
You're saying
aerial
get fewer-
aspect.
You're saying get fewer people, is that what you're saying?
Correct. I think we still need the aerial aspect of it to draw people that aren't there just to see static displays.
And I apologize, it rained in 2012 when we lost 18,000. 2014 was the year that the contractor let everybody go through the gate without paying, and we also greatly expanded on the performers.
Yeah, okay.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, I was,
I saw you.
okay. Okay. Nope.
Chair.
Gordon?
Well, I don't know if I clarified where I was going with but if we're getting it down to $3,000, obviously we watered down the aerobatics last year. But if you get it down to $2,000 or $3,000, I think it's a very inexpensive fee to promote our airport in our community. You know, I agree with what you're saying, 25,000, 40,000, but it seems like we're getting it down to a reasonable amount of money, and I think that amount of money is well worth it for the advertisement we get for our community.
Well, okay. Let me just briefly say, I don't see a trend in the numbers. I mean, if you look at the numbers, there's no trend.
There's no trend going down?
No, no. If you look at, okay, forget 2010. 2011, we lost $2,000. 2012, $17,000. 2013, $1,400. 2014, $25,000. 2015, $9,000. There is no trend that I can see here. There is no trend. And, you know, that's why I say it was a great weather, so we can't blame the weather.
Well, we have to also believe that, you know, this is economical driven. I mean, if people don't have money to spend, they don't have money to spend.
Well, this year, they supposedly, in this Bay Area, they had money to spend, supposedly.
Well, the other
Like I say, look, I agree with everybody who wants to talk up having an air show, and I'm all for it, but I'm not for losing $10,000, $11,000 per year. And I think it's fiscally irresponsible to just ignore that and say, oh, but it's great for the community, if there's another way to do it. The thing that I would really personally like to see happen is for the city council to say, you're right, you shouldn't have to lose money, and we'll come up with $11,000 sponsorship. Now, if the city would sponsor it, I got no problem with that. Let's do it. I mean, and I agree, if we could have the losses controlled to $1,000 or $2,000, which with a fly-in might not even lose, because like Watsonville charges for parking, that might be enough to pay for the porta potties. Who knows? But at any rate, I'm not opposed to this air show. I'm just saying, as a member of this commission, I think it's our responsibility to look at the numbers and to say, should we just keep losing money? Now, I mean, I feel that we really, people here in the audience and other people, they've tried this and tried that and got this idea, that idea. Some things work, some things don't, but I don't see a trend of things getting better. It's always, well, you know, we think it'll be better next year. We got some new ideas, but I don't see a trend. Now, if we can get the city to say, okay, we think it's good for the community, as you said, Steve, you know, and I think it is. It's good outreach. I think it's great, but that's for the community. It's not doing the airport any good. But
Well,
I'm happy, you know.
The airport is part of the community.
Well,
So
but it's not helping the tenants.
No,
You
no,
know.
and it never will.
Well, right, but I think as a tenant, I'm happy to put up with the hassle, because I agree that it's doing something for the community.
Right.
But, so I'm not trying to say it should go away, but I'm saying I want the losses to go away. And the only way I know to have losses go away, there's two ways that I know of. Because I think everybody's done what they can. We doubled up the advertising this last year. I mean, and I know Ruth, I think, has been one of the prime drivers, running around trying to get sponsors. And, you know, we're doing everything we know how to get the people to come and to get the money to come in, and we still lose money. So I'm saying, I think that instead of just talking about, well, we think it'll be better next year, we ought to do something about it. And I think we should take a position. And I think, like I say, the position I'd really like to see take place and happen is to get the city council to put up. I mean, my God, the air show carries the city's name.
No, I have a comment.
So, and I think there might have been a comment from, I don't want to let everybody talk here, but go ahead.
I have a quickie comment. I've been one of the volunteers every year, and this year I noticed I seem to sense a lot of burnout. A lot of people. There wasn't as much enthusiasm, and that's something that you have to consider. The people that are volunteering every year, maybe they'll quit volunteering. Just a thought.
It certainly, I've also been a volunteer well, I missed 1 year because I was in Florida that year, but about 5 of the other shows I've been there, and it personally, to me, I'm losing interest. I mean, the fact that we lose money, I personally don't want, I don't like working on something that's a loser. And I've been working on a loser for 5-6 years. And I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. And what I'd like to see, my ideal solution is the city council puts up 10, 11,000, says, we'll sponsor it. You put our name on there and say, sponsored by City of Hollister, or they're one of the major sponsors. That would be great, and I'd love it. And then we'd be off looking at next year's
If I
show.
could say something.
Sure.
I think as a committee, I think we need to, I think we all recognize that the air show is an important component of the community. And as such, I believe that we all recognize that is that something that we could carry on to the city council. If we're divided, they'll know and they'll say, you know what, they know best, and they'll go according to whatever we say.
You don't have a lot of experience here, I can see.
No, that's true, but I come, with minimum experience.
We've
the
said
whole
things and
idea
they
is
say,
this,
forget
is
it,
that
but
If
anyway.
we don't say something positive, we're not gonna get anything positive in return.
I'd like to make a couple of comments if I could.
Sure.
All of them is good. Everything that's said here is good. But I can tell you right now, Dean, you're not going to get the city council to give you 1 cent to sponsor the air show. They don't have the money. I'll tell you right now, I've been there, I know it. They don't have the money, and they're not going to support that air show. They support it, but they're not going to give money for it. I can tell you that. You can try your best. And the second thing I would suggest is not to go before the city council and tell me you don't want an air show. Let them decide about the air show. But I wouldn't go tell them, I don't want an air show. We don't want an air show. Because we're losing money, and they know it. In fact, the mayor and I talked about it for an hour today, about that, about the loss, the money and stuff. But I wouldn't go up to them and tell them, hey, we don't want an air show. I think that'd be a big mistake, personally.
Well,
And I've been there.
I know you've been there. So actually, so's Gordon.
I've been there for 8 years, and Gordon has been there for a long time, but the new concept right now
Well,
is, they want to fix the roads, they want to do other things besides, and
I understand.
Mike used to come before us all
But-
the time,
but
and he
it's-
used
but
to
it's-
get to run around.
You know, I mean, I guess I know that the city council would say, don't do it anyway, because it doesn't cost them money, is their view. And I think I don't like that view.
No.
But, I mean, you're probably right, Robert, I'm not,
I know they're they're concerned about the loss, I can tell you that right now.
you say they are?
Yeah, they are really concerned about our loss every year, I can tell you that. And do they have the report already? Yes?
They do not.
No, I'm not sure. The mayor had some information on it. Where do you get that from?
I don't know.
Is Wattsville now a fly-in?
This year?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what that poster is out there.
Well, the only question, going back to my analogy here, but I think we're moving, I think last year Mike made the initiative to cut the show, cut some of the costs in the hierarchy there, of the aerobatics. And so that dropped it quite a bit. So when I was saying we're going down, I think we're going down in what we're presenting, which is a cost factor.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we had whatever the problem with one of the flyers. But even then, we would, I guess we could say even then, all we want, because the reality was cost us $9,000. I guess theoretically, it should only cost us about $3,000 this year. And then we reverted even to a fly-in, which I'm not sure that's the answer either. Could even cost less. I just like to emphasize that for that small, I know 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 is a lot of money, but what advertisement is today within any business or community, 5,000 is very little.
I agree. In fact, 10,000 is not that bad, except that as I'm trying to look at the big picture of the airport and grants, and what the airport runs on is grants. And we've had a kind of a nice free ride because Building 25 burned down, and we had $1.5 million or something like that in the bank, and we've been able to come up with our matching funds for all of our previous grants. But that money's running out, and I guess we've covered pretty much the big one coming up. But looking to the future, we're going to have to come up with money if we want to continue to have grants to keep developing the airport. And I'm just saying that it's worth 10 to 20 times that amount in grants. So a $10,000 loss is worth $100,000 to $200,000 in grants. And so it's that big of a loss to the airport, is what I'm trying to say. I can handle 10,000 if that was it, but we lose the ability to continue to develop the airport by 10 to 20 times that amount. That's my concern. That's why I'm making a stink about it. It's big money. It's really bigger money than it looks like. So anyway, I think there was somebody in the audience who had a comment. Happy to get everybody's comments on this thing because it's clearly a difficult topic.
Well, I agree with basically what most of you are saying, but we still have to think about the fact that because we have it on that particular weekend, we really had no fly-ins. I mean, there was hardly anybody flew in, and Sunday there was, nothing, because they're going to Father's Day fly-in in Columbia. That's where they're all going. We had a lot of cars on the first day, and the second day we had a lot less, because across the street they have a car show. Now, we can get a lot of cars on another weekend. We can get a lot of planes flying in, which we used to get on the other weekend. If we had it on a non-holiday weekend, and maybe just had one day, I think we'd get a lot more fly-ins, and we get a lot more people, and we wouldn't be losing the money. A lot more cars, a lot more fly-ins. One day, we wouldn't have as much money to pay to the pilots, the motel.
Actually, those costs all are the same. It only costs an additional probably 30% to have them there for 2 days.
Including the motel and the gas and all that?
That's what we're paying. We're paying a little additional gas,
Yeah.
and we're paying one additional night at the hotel. Their fees are their fees. Whether you use them for the entire weekend
Okay.
or you use them for one day, their fees are the same.
Actually,
But
got to
we're
use
not
them
getting
at
the
least 2
fly-ins.
days, right, for one, because you have
Yeah.
a practice day.
As far as the gas, I mean, we're talking quantities of 8 gallons, 12 gallons. So we're not talking a whole lot of gas for that additional day. Believe it or not, the additional day has saved us each year from terrible losses. The additional day is actually where we've been able to get close sometimes.
We're getting the fly-ins. In fact, where the fly-ins were supposed to be parked so that people could see the planes, we put the cars there because it was empty. So I know you don't want to change the date, but I really didn't like the idea of the Father's Day weekend in the first place, because I knew we were going to lose the cars and we were going to lose the planes, the fly-ins, because that's where they all are, 2 different places. Anyway, it's up to you.
Okay. Well,
Do you have a consensus?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So my plan is to present this report to the city council on the 8th of September, Tuesday. And we'll go from there. Depending on how that goes, my plan would be to propose the next air show, get approval for the dates, safety zones, and all that good stuff on the 21st of September. And we'll start planning the next show after that point.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm a little scared now because it became a subject on the commission tonight. And our man, the airport manager is going before the city council with a report,
Right,
and we're on the air.
right.
And I hate to have the city council or the public feeling that we're talking about getting rid of it, when in reality, we're saying to keep it. So
Well-
I would like to see some kind of action that we concur or we disagree with you.
You mean you'd like the commission to vote on something?
On something, because I got a feeling that this is an open discussion, that no decision was made. And it could be taken either way. And I think if there's I got a feeling that the majority.
The majority probably says keep doing it.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that should
And
be.
we can certainly, if somebody wants to move that we
I'm just talking probably politically.
Well,
Yeah.
my left side here is the politics side, so.
I just don't want to go out in the public on the TV that we're thinking about, they were talking about, thinking about either we are or not.
Okay. Well, so I kind of took his report and I turned it into
I
a
understand.
discussion. And I mean, nobody's really changed my mind, but that's just me. Clearly, I don't think I changed anybody else's
I
mind,
respect it.
which is fine also.
I personally think that maybe Mike is going to another entity,
Yeah.
and Mike needs to have your direction, your support, so that he can speak with one tongue,
Well-
as opposed to coming out gibberish.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think Gordon is trying to cover this and say he thinks we'd like to have and you're right, I'm sure, that we should have some opinion, whether even if it's not unanimous, but we should have an opinion. And I would be happy to entertain a motion that, to the effect that we either we support continuing the holding of an air show. Move on that and
So
support
moved.
them.
So
You want to move that? Okay, and,
Well, maybe we should include something on a scaled-down air show like it was this year.
well,
Because that's, to me, that's,
we'll go nuts because we can get onto moving the date, and we get onto the scaling it down, or boosting it up, or increasing the ads, or this, that, and the other thing. And I don't want to micromanage the thing.
I
I
don't think
want
there's
to,
any intention to increase it.
huh?
I don't think there's any intention to
Well,
increase it.
I mean, I think we ought to just say either we agree
Well, I will
to
say that
continue.
the city council did budget $60,000 for the air show. You might include in the motion that we don't exceed 50.
Well,
Why don't
when
we
you say the
vote
city
to-
council budgeted, they budgeted airport funds.
I understand that, but understand that the budget for the 2016 air show was, had to be budgeted in March of 2015.
Okay.
So in reality, we're budgeting for an air show before the air show that year even happens.
So you're saying this motion should support an air show budgeted at 50,000?
I did not say that, but I suggested that you
suggesting
might
it.
want to include something like that if that's your wish.
Is that your wish?
Not really.
in your
I
motion?
said that we support an air show.
Okay.
Why don't we vote to either continue or discontinue their show?
Okay.
And then we can continue the discussion at another meeting.
Well, if we need to, I'm not sure we need to, but, so you want to move that we express our support to continue having the air show? Does anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
What, okay, I guess Steve did.
4 seconds.
4 seconds. Okay, any discussion of this, on this motion? What?
No.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I'll oppose it. So I opposed it.
So Fred,
Yeah,
did you support or oppose? Okay, thank you.
I'm the odd man out on this topic. Well, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate the discussion.
Point well taken.
I am still concerned about losing money and losing those grants, but we'll move on. Next topic is, unless there's anything more on the air show, old business, item 8C, AIP 17, runway. What is
So-
that number?
Huh?
582666, FED?
That was the previous last number we got from the feds on how much money they were gonna give us.
Oh,
Until we get a document through FedEx, you really don't know what that number's gonna be. So, last word I had was it's gonna be at the 53 level. It'll be different than that when we finally get the document. So, in fact, we got documents and then they took them all back. So we're waiting on the second set of documents. It's the FAA. Anyway, so AIP 17 is a reconstruction of the runway. We are deferring the reconstruction portion of it till after February because of the Super Bowl situation. We don't want to have the runway gone when it's time to land airplanes for that. We may try to take care of, in that project is also crack seal and slurry seal of taxiway alpha. So we're going to try to take care of that immediately. So in the next month or two, it may be that alpha is closed. People will have to back taxi as we're working on it. It shouldn't take more than, I'd say, 2 weeks to get that work done at the worst. So those conversations are occurring right now.
so this is just runway reconstruction, not taxiway reconstruction?
That is correct. They were able to include crack seal and slurry on the taxiway, but it is the runway that's getting the lion's share of the work. So now, some of it is the crack seal that you guys saw where they squirt the lava in and cover it. A lot of it is they're cutting the asphalt and putting new asphalt in, in the big stuff, because it exceeds the tolerances of the rubber stuff.
Okay.
So,
Any questions or comments?
Probably a little late here in my question, but I don't know where it lands on our agenda. Whatever happened to our reconstruction and our problems out at the airport?
that's next item.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments on AIP 17? No? Okay.
Obviously, we'll issue NOTAMs and keep everybody advised as best as we can.
You think this will happen when?
I'm hoping that we can get the slurry seal before the rains come,
Okay.
and I'm hoping the rains come. So.
Just, yeah, right. Sometime this fall, in other words.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Item 8D is AIP 16.
AIP 16 was a previous reconstruction of the runway. We are continuing to meet with the contractor. We're continuing to wait for CAL FIRE to leave so the repairs can be completed. And we're in discussions with the contractor on the best way to complete those repairs. And once again, what the situation is the contract requires 4 inches of asphalt, and in places there's 3 3/4 inches of asphalt. In some places there's 3.9 inches of asphalt, etc. So they didn't put enough.
So it's not a repair, it's a correction.
It's a correction.
I want to make that clear.
Okay. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, item 8E is NBAA 2015.
So I talked about it a little bit during the Super Bowl update. We're scheduled to go to NBAA 2015 and promote the airport for business operations and obviously also Super Bowl situation. So all the arrangements have been made. I'm working on the flyers, handouts, and stuff. So all in all, I think we have a pretty good advertising plan put together, and we're going to go in and see how we do.
Okay. Comments, questions?
Is there a recovery factor there for the advertisement?
I'm sorry?
What?
You're talking about advertising? You said advertising the airport?
Yes.
Now, we do have a recovery factor in there, or is that again?
What is that? Oh, it's more loss, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh.
more loss.
I'm getting you on my side?
Yeah. You got me sympathetic to you.
We budgeted an amount of money to be spent on advertisement the last couple of years, and that's the money we're using.
But is there any anticipated recovery of that money?
I am
Generating something?
I'm very conservative when it comes to those things, so I'm not promising anything. The hope is that it gets our information out there. I personally believe that Hollister has a lot to offer, particularly for that event. We also have other aspects of the airport operation at our place that leads itself to certain aviation activities. We have a couple new businesses out there in the last couple of years. I think word's getting out that, in fact, the last one that came in, FSDO said, go there. So I think word's getting out that Hollister may be the place to do certain types of activities. So I think this is, for years we've had the build it and they will come model running here. We built it, Ken Lindsay built it, and they haven't come. So my idea was, if we want business aviation to come, we need to be at where business aviation is and get our name out there. So that's what this is trying to do. It may not produce anything, and we'll try something else, but.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I was hoping in my mind, or where your intention was, and I think it's valid, if we're talking about the Super Bowl, we're talking about a lot of corporate jets coming in.
That is correct.
And those corporate jets are owned by corporations.
That is
hopefully.
correct.
And therefore, they've got exposure to our airport and the area as they come in for a landing. They might be anticipating exactly what you're saying. It's not a bad place after all. It ain't. Okay.
Okay.
I'm done.
You're done. Okay. Yeah. So that it's a little different category. This may ultimately result in some new hangars, new businesses, manufacturing, who knows? So this is addressing
Well, I
something
think it's a
that.
whole different area that we're exposing
Yeah.
ourselves to that we never had the opportunity.
Right. So that's kind of like money well spent, I think.
Oh. All right. You're coming to it.
Well, okay, anyway. All right. Any other comments on this particular item? No? Okay, that takes care of old business, and item 9 is new business. Item 9A is sales tax.
So the FAA has issued a clarification, I believe, of existing rules is the best way to put it. I don't think it's a new rule, but what the gist of it is any sales tax on fuel sales at the airport is going to need to come back to the airport fund as revenue. So this is a plus.
This presumably has not been happening here.
It has not been happening a lot of places.
Yeah.
So the FAA has ruled.
In
So to
my-
remain eligible for grants, we will need to do that. And I've already talked to the finance department and the city manager, and that is occurring.
They're examining how much we're looking at. But I read through that thing, it looks like what we're looking at is maybe at least 1%. Because 4.5% or whatever of the sales tax is already, was 1987 or something, and so it doesn't fall into that category. And then, so it's since then, there's a bunch of weird rules and this and that and the other thing, but so it's at least 1% of the, which is
Fuel sales.
1% of it at $5 a gallon is 5 cents, so it would, it's like,
It's almost like a second fuel flow fee.
that's what I'm saying, yeah, and if it's more than 1%, yeah. Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
so this has been going into the general fund or some other category?
I believe it's been all going into the sales tax revenue for the general
And
fund,
now it's
yes.
going directly into the airport fund?
Yes.
I mean, it's,
No.
I mean, wherever the sales tax goes, which is probably to the state, right? I mean, that's where it's been going now.
Nobody returns.
Well, the
Well,
sales
then you get
tax
something back to the
first
community,
goes to the
but,
state,
yeah.
and then it goes to the county, and then it comes back to us.
Yeah, okay. But
After
just,
everybody takes their cut.
We've been getting, yeah. I assume we've been getting it all these years, but we went to a different category.
yeah, but
Yes.
the airport hasn't been getting it.
Right.
But the personal property
That'll make
tax
up
on
the
airplanes, we're getting that full.
That
now.
does come to the airport, yes. And has been.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? All right. Item 10 is items for next agenda. Does anyone have something new they'd like to add?
Additional applications?
That's probably appropriate. Perhaps. Well, I guess we can start with the reports. You're going to give us a Super Bowl update again, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay. CPI is probably done. Cal Fire, hopefully there's nothing to be said there.
Well, what
Unless-
I'd love to tell you is they've started construction on their new base. I
Well,
just
if they
don't
do,
think
then
that-
you can
I
put it
will,
on.
I'll add it if they do.
All right. Restroom cleaning presumably is resolved. Unless something, you come up with something. I guess you could give us progress on the new position. Presumably nothing on ACIP. Old business plan, I need to keep that on there. Air show, presumably nothing. Well, I guess you could report back what city council says. And I guess on the AIP's progress. And I guess NBAA, if something to say there. So that, along with how we're going to deal with a commissioner application. That should cover the items for next agenda.
Okay?
All right, our next meeting date will be September 23rd, 2015.
That is correct.
Okay, at this point, I'd entertain a motion from Fred, probably, to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting in memory of Douglas Jackson.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
Hit it harder.
All right.
Oh, is there?
Well, I tried.